Everyone, it's starting off with a perfect day indication. We're going to get rain. Yeah, for me, rain is perfect. It's what we need. We need a good rain. We've burned the park. You've seen the pictures. Now we need the rain. It washes the charcoal into the soil, cleans it off a little bit, doesn't make it look so moonscape. It waters the grass, so the grass will then start growing up through that. If we get enough rain and some time, you won't know that we burned. That's the purpose. I'm still drinking my pumpkin spice coffee. I put a Splenda in it, one in it, and a little creamer. Never got used to black coffee, even flavored black coffee. Okay, so we're fighting evil. Of course, Kitty's going to still do his terror runs. It's early. We're fighting evil. And how do you know when you're winning against evil? Evil whines. They can't stand it. They try throwing back their accusations of what they were doing against us to let us know that they don't like it. Whatever they did evil-wise in the past administration, they're going to use that same tactic to throw out against the current administration. And they're whining. And they're having their liberal left-appointed judges block everything that they can. At some point in time, the Supreme Court's probably going to have to get involved. In a couple of cases, it's obvious that they're blocking, and Trump is ignoring them. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. On a worldwide front, Hamas has said they're not sending any more hostages. I think up to this point, we've got the cream of the crop of hostages. We've got the best that they had to deliver. Kitty? He's doing his terror run, so, which means he gets into trouble. This last set that they released, they were emaciated, so that means that whoever is left is probably on their last breath, waiting to be released. And one of the families just realized, as they were told, that their loved one that they're waiting for is already deceased, so, and has been since October 7th, which is probably the case in 99% of those that are supposedly still hostages. The 1% probably are not in good shape. So Hamas doesn't want to deliver them. They got worldwide ridicule and condemnment from the last three. So they don't want it anymore. So any excuse they can come up with. So now they're saying, well, because Israel's breaking the deal, we're not going to release any more. We're all done. The agreement's over. Let's go back to the table and figure out what we can steal from you again. Let's negotiate again. Trump's had it. Trump came out yesterday I guess he was in the Oval Office signing stuff. And he came out and said, you have till Saturday noon. This is calling him out into the street for a shootout. You have till Saturday noon to release all the remaining hostages, period. Or all hell's going to break loose. Yeah. What does that mean? I don't know. The press tried to find out. He said, wait till Saturday noon and find out. You don't lay your cards on the table when you're playing a poker match, and you got to keep that poker face. You don't let anybody know that you're excited because you've got 4 aces, or that you're bluffing because you've got a pair of 2s. You don't let the other players know. And you might be able to bluff your way through it, because you're bluffing either way. If you got 4 aces, you don't want everybody throwing in. You want them to keep putting money in. You want them to think that they're going to win. If you got 2 deuces, you want somebody with a pair of queens to fold. I don't know, I'm getting technical on poker, but that's how you play the game. And he's good at it. He's expert at it. I want to talk about it more tomorrow, but we're going to compare some parallels. Good writing is good writing. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. The Bible is good writing, inspired writing. But there's other good writing out there that you should be doing. We're not reading enough. And this is our message again for tomorrow. Not for what you're going to see tomorrow. We're going to work on that here in a second, fighting evil. But reading. Find the joy in reading again. We're going to look at a couple of different writers, and we're going to look at some Shakespeare, who very cleverly created plots and solved them in clever writing styles. I don't like acting Shakespeare, but I love watching it. Okay, the temperature must have dropped because my little heater came on. I think it's 50 outside. It's tolerable, but it's not warm and it's not cold. Okay, so we're going to talk about fighting evil, and like I said, you know when you're winning, when the evil is whining. Because evil people are cowards. They're cowards. You can get people brainwashed into killing themselves, suicide bombers and whatnot. But they've been brainwashed. They're not really making a decision on their own. They've been brainwashed. But people who are still lucid in their mind and clear in their head, and they still want evil, they're going to whine when they lose. Because they're cowards. Anybody who's fighting against God's fighting a losing battle. So we're going to start reading some stories here. The first is going to come out of Acts 19:11. We know that Jesus did a lot of miracles. But Paul also did miracles. He was so blessed by God in doing miracles that, like Jesus, even... Hang on a second. I'm back. Kitty knows he's being ignored. Sometimes he comes and attacks me and bites me. Other times he just goes up on the counter and starts knocking things off. Typical cat stuff. And he knocked the first thing off and he was looking for more, so I had to go chase him until he stops doing it. Now he's just quietly lying on the floor. He'll be fine the rest of the time. Okay, so we're going to look at some of the things that Paul did and others on his behalf. Like I mentioned, even Jesus' clothes, his garment, the woman who had a bleeding issue came up and touched his garment, his one-piece sackcloth, and was healed. Just touching the garment. Faith is what healed her. So 1911, I don't know if I was reading. Now God worked unusual miracles by the hands of Paul. That's 1911. 12. So that even his handkerchiefs and aprons were brought from his body to the sick, and the diseases left them, and evil spirits went out of them. Paul had a profession. Everybody had a profession. Even as a religious leader, they had a profession. Because they couldn't rely on the money from the people. They didn't tax you to death like the United States was doing and like the Roman Empire tried to do. And some of the itinerant Jewish exorcists took it upon themselves to call the name of the Lord Jesus over those who had evil spirits, saying, "We exorcise you by the Jesus whom Paul preaches." Talk about second-hand healing. They didn't know Jesus, they didn't know Paul. But it's the Jesus that Paul preaches about. We're going to heal you in that on his behalf. In 14, also there were 7 sons of Sheva, a Jewish chief priest, who did so. And the evil spirit answered and said to him, "Jesus I know, Paul I know, but who are you?" Then the man in whom the evil spirit was in leaped on them, overpowered them, so that they fled out of the house naked and wounded. This is comical. They tried to use just the names without having the power behind them. In 17, this became known both to all Jews and Greeks dwelling in Ephesus. Okay, there he is. He's here. Yeah, you're going to lick my finger? Okay, you can lick my finger. Just don't bite it. You can stay up here if you're nice. And fear fell on them all, and the name of the Lord Jesus was magnified. That last sentence kind of tells you what it was all about and why we have the story. People knew about Jesus. Everybody knew about Jesus, but a lot of them didn't believe. This is helping out. Ephesians 6:11, we're coming in kind of at the end. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. We're not fighting a physical war. We are in the world. The world's fighting a physical war. We're fighting a physical war in the United States because they brought in physical fighters to fight to destroy the country. We're fighting corruption so deep, everybody. The cats and dogs in the pound are stealing money. I mean, that's how bad it is. And they don't want them. The places, the IRS that wanted to audit everybody and hired 80,000 auditors to beef up their power to go out and audit, they don't want to be audited. Again, it's comical. So you can stand against the wiles of the devil, for we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Oh, I can't wait until I can not have to run a heater. My eyes are just... I've got Visine. I keep dabbing in it. I don't know if you can hear the rain. It's a little bit quieter in here than it would be in my tent. I'm drier than I would be in my tent because my tent leaked at the end. I threw it out. I like to look out at the rain and see how well it's doing, but this is just the leading bands of it. There's a whole big front coming in behind with a lot of rain in it. This is just this is out probably an hour ahead of the main front. So I have to get this recorded earlier before that front gets here, because then it might be a little bit too noisy in here. All right. Ephesians 6:13. Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the evil day. And having done all, there's multiple pieces of armor. Take up the whole armor of God and go about your business, spreading the gospel, helping people. And the devil can't get to you as long as you're armored up. Having done so, stand. You can stand and not be knocked out. So we basically have to understand that you might be fighting a physical battle. The light's so bright my beard looks white again. I have to keep the light down a little bit in here, but there's no light coming from the outside right now, so it's reflecting. I look at my videos, and some of them the beard looks darker and some of them looks lighter. It's got to do with the amount of light I'm putting on myself. I have an overhead light on me right now. That's why you're seeing this shadow on my face. It's too bright. I haven't decided if I want to color my beard. I mean, there's darkness in my hair, so there is still color in my hair. I could try to match that because it's gray and dark. I could add some dark just a little bit, not a full. I can't go back to my Tony Stark look. I'd love to be able to do that, and I had that look before he used it on Iron Man. So I didn't think anything about it when I would show up to set with my beard, and people would put me in the back and hide me because they didn't want Tony Stark on the set. I look like him with my beard. You've seen my pictures. Okay. Now let's turn over to Matthew 17:14. And when they had come to the multitude, a man came to him, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic. Whatever he had, it was apparently demon-caused. Not to assume that everyone who's got epilepsy today has a demon in them. But in this particular case, we'll find out that he did. There are physical problems that we are dealing with. People have problems that they can't deal with. Michael J. Fox has a type of neurological disease that he can't control his body well. Linda Ronstadt had to stop singing because she has a similar type thing that affects her throat, so she can't sing. We've seen this over and over again through the course of history of people having diseases that debilitate them. We don't see them healed. I'm only reminded of Paul, my grace is sufficient for you. If it can be healed, and God wants it healed, you will be healed. Hands down, no more discussion. You will be healed. If you're still sick and you've been praying, unfortunately, my grace is sufficient for you is the only answer. But the strength comes from God, and the joy comes from God. So you don't have to manufacture any of that on your own. You just have to have faith in Him that He's watching over you and helping you to do what you need to do. Verse 15, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers severely, for he often falls into the fire and often into the water. So it causes him to have fits and fall where he shouldn't, and he has to go be rescued. So I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him. This is the other part of the equation. You can't heal yourself, or you can't heal others. It may be the will of God. It may be you not doing it right. And Jesus answered and said, "O faithless and perverse generation." Well, we don't have to be perverse, but we can think about maybe our faith isn't strong enough. It takes the faith of a mustard seed to move a mountain. But there are things smaller than mustard seeds. How long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him to me. See his frustration. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Jesus can do it, even if we can't. But here's the key. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, "Why could we not cast it out?" Jesus said to him, "Because of your unbelief." They believed that they could heal him, but they didn't believe strong enough, unwavering, without any doubt. For assuredly I say to you, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Nothing will be impossible. This is Jesus speaking now. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. So they didn't do their preparation for the day. This guy showed up, and they weren't ready. But his faith in the healing power of Jesus saved his son. And I'm reminded of that as I pray for my son, who has a couple of issues that we can't seem to deal with. He has Asperger, which is a learning disorder which you can learn to live with. Elon Musk has Asperger. It makes him not full autistic, but it's in that family. You look normal where autistic people have a look about them. But Asperger, you look exactly perfectly normal, and people don't understand why you behave the way you do. But it's Asperger. It's a communication issue problem. And he has that. But that's half the problem. He also has narcolepsy. So he's a perfectionist with a sleep disorder. He's not streaming. He hasn't streamed in 2 weeks. Because if he can't stream perfectly, he's got that, I've got to do it perfectly. I don't want them to see me suffering and having a problem. We all do that, but he's young, so he hasn't figured that out. There are days that I struggle to get my message out. I've had lack of sleep. I'm sore muscles from working and doing exercises and whatever. I still do my videos, and sometimes you may see it. You see me rubbing my eyes constantly sometimes, to a degree that I almost feel like I've got a tick, because it's just the way things are. I don't know if you've seen, remember Johnny Carson. He had a number of tics, and the impersonators that would impersonate him would expand on those tics to make them even more. It's like, whatever the tic was. Banging his pencil, whatever the tic was. Sneaking a cigarette. He'd smoke and then put the cigarette down and then look back when he doesn't know the camera's looking at him. He tries to sneak it in between when the camera's looking at somebody else. We've all got tics that we do, habits. We have to make sure that we prepare ourselves. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. You need to read more. And I'm going to encourage you to read more than just the Bible. We can't limit ourselves to only the Bible, because we won't understand people. Now, you only need to read the Bible to understand God. But to understand people, you need to read other works. And there's a number of different paths you can take in reading. My dad used to love to read, was it Louis L'Amour, the Western fiction writer, the little paperback books. He loved to read those. So you find something that's in your area of comfort to read. I don't recommend reading the phone book. It's boring. So you read things that you like. I've read all of Shakespeare. I don't remember a lot of it, but I read it all. Excellent writing. Don't give up the Bible for any of the other work. Do the Bible. That's the most important part. But then you've got free time. Our problem is we spend all of our time going like this, and we're reading little 1 or 2 sentence snippets. You need to read more. And I'll talk about it tomorrow, but I have a hard time reading. I read slow because it doesn't paint a picture in my mind. So I have to understand what I'm reading as I'm reading it, fully understand it, because I'm not going to draw a picture. You could describe a beautiful brook, fish jumping, trees on the sides, whatever. I'm trying to make this stuff up as I'm going here. And I won't envision that stream in my mind. I will mentally take note. There's water running down, there's fish jumping, and there's trees. Okay. They're outside. Interesting. But unless you describe everything that I need to know, I'm not going to imagine the rest. So, you read the Bible because you've got to have something in your head for the Spirit of God to interact with. We don't hear him. I wish we could. Moses got to talk to God through a burning bush, through mountaintop thunders. Even Mary and Joseph got to talk to angels. I don't know if I've got an angel in my life to help to talk to, but I've certainly got friends. And sometimes friends can give you good advice. Sometimes they can give you bad advice. You have to take it all in and then run it past the... God is our best filter. Man doesn't know how to filter. I'm hoping you too will stop filtering me. That's where I was leading that up to. So that I can reach more people. If you can't find my videos, you can't watch them. And I pray daily that God inspires me to say what I need to say. Because I'm not here just talking to the camera. I'm talking to you that are watching. And it's important that I give you good, wholesome food to equip you, to equip the saints. We're all saints if we're Christians. And we will stand before Jesus and before God at some point in time. That's our good news of the future. And I wish we could jump all the way to Revelation 21. But we can't. You've got to read everything in between. And the world has to experience everything in between. Because without that time, if we jumped all the way to Revelation 21, a lot of people wouldn't be saved. So we have to have this coming. People will be saved during the tribulation. People will be saved during the millennium. But there will become towards the end less and less. And the people at the end of the tribulation and at the end of the millennium will turn back to evil. It's sad. Now there will be a remnant that lives through the tribulation that seeds the millennium. I'm not talking about them. They will be Christians, whether they're Jews or straight Christians, they will be going into the millennium. But the rest of the world will be destroyed, ultimately. And because it has been corrupted, God's not even going to fix the world. He's going to start over, going to create a new heaven and earth. I don't know what it's going to look like. Will grass be blue or pink or yellow and the sky red? I don't know. I'm comfortable with the colors that we have now, but colors are an illusion. Grass isn't green. Grass absorbs all the other colors except green. Green reflects off of the grass and comes into our eye. So grass technically is not green. It rejects green and we get to see it. And the same thing goes for everything else. When we see we're told we have a light for the day and a light for the night. The sun is the night. The sun is the day one, but it's also technically the night one. When we watch and we see the moon, that's sunlight reflecting off of the moon. Hello, kitty. So our horror sci-fi buffs, well, our vampires can only come out in moonlight. That's, of course, fiction. But in reality, they're coming out in sunlight. It's just reflected off the moon. So it's really not moonlight, it's sunlight. All right. Enough of this. Equip yourself. Prepare yourself. Prayer and fasting. You don't have to do it all the time. You just have to do it at key times. If you can pray and fast on Sunday for your day off, for the Lord's Day, then you're ready to go on Monday. Now, there's probably not a whole lot of fasting going on for Super Bowl. Probably too much eating, so you might have to move that over to Monday. All right. We're still watching. We're still waiting. God's timeline is still God's timeline, and it will happen when it happens. We have a rapture. The current high watch time is coming up, leading up into Passover and that time frame. Maybe, maybe not. It's just ahead of us. That's all I can guarantee. Until we meet in the clouds, God bless.